So greetings from Pennsylvania once again, and we're out this morning looking for some more edible and medicinal plants and some poisonous plants. I found the poisonous plant I'm looking for. I knew it was grown here alongside the road. I just collected some chicory just up the way. I'm trying to get a couple videos done here this morning. Yeah, but let me show you what I got down here. So down here we have something called horsenettle, sometimes referred to as Carolina horsenettle. Of course it has other names too. You can see what the flowers look like there. These white flowers with the orange centers. If you're familiar with garden plants, they kind of look like tomato or potato flowers, and they are in that same family. I think the first video we did in this series was the bittersweet nightshade. Horsenettle is also in the nightshade family. It's not actually a nettle, but the stems are thorny or prickly on this plant. So it is indeed toxic. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Oh, there's a little beetle on top there. All right, I'm going to collect a few specimens and we'll, like I said, find a quieter place to talk about it. It's growing all along the roadside here. A whole bunch of it there. Yeah, so once again, this is horsenettle. I just got poked by it. Ouch, does have quite a bit of thorns on it. Made it difficult to pick this out. But there you go, horsenettle. There's a scientific name. Sometimes it's called Carolina horsenettle. Sometimes it's two separate words, and other times it's one word, but there's like hyphen or a dash between the horse and the nettle. But it's all the same thing, horsenettle. And the plant, all parts of the plant are poisonous. The leaves, maybe I should just stop trying to pick it up. The leaves and the berries. I'll show you a picture of the berries later, but the berries are by far the most poisonous part of the plant. Let me show you these thorns again. Yeah, it is definitely a very thorny plant. You can see all the thorns along there. So, which is kind of helpful in a way, since it is a toxic plant. It keeps like animals, like farm animals, from actually eating it too much, because who wants to bite into this? Although the goats would eat this. They eat all kinds of thorns, but some of your more typical animals like cows and sheep or horses would not bother eating this plant. And once again, it is in the nightshade family, along with familiar things like tomatoes and potatoes as well. Flowers are very similar. A bit wilted now since I picked them. But one of the more dangerous things about this plant, well, I gotta tell you some of the other common names for this plant, they're kind of interesting, is the berries. Like when I did the bittersweet nightshade, did that plant, it had like little red berries. But the horsenettle has like not large, but more medium-sized orange berries that almost look like little yellow cherry tomatoes. And they also look very similar to something called a ground cherry, which grows around here in these parts too. They're very similar, but there is one main difference. I'm gonna go ahead and show you what the berries of the horsenettle look like. I'll throw a picture up here for you. And that picture was taken in the fall. These berries mature in like late summer and fall, and they indeed look like little cherry tomatoes. But like I said, there's something very similar called a ground cherry. I'm gonna show you a picture of that next. So you should notice the main difference. The ground cherry has that papery husk around it, and the horsenettle doesn't. But other than that, they almost look like the same plant. But the difference is the horsenettle is poisonous, and the ground cherry is edible. Some people actually grow ground cherries in their garden. My grandmother used to make pies. Although I think when I was younger, I didn't want to try it. Maybe today I would, but anyway. So yeah, that's the main difference. The edible ground cherry has that papery husk around it. The nightshade doesn't, or the horsenettle doesn't. So if you're into looking for ground cherries and edible stuff, keep that in mind. So I do have a list of other names for this plant. Devil's tomato, or sometimes called devil's potato, or wild tomato. Sometimes it's called the apple of Sodom. That's a biblical term. In the Old Testament, Sodom and Gomorrah were those two evil cities that were burned. So the apple of Sodom refers to its poisonous nature. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Let me read you some other things though here. So like the whole plant is toxic, like I said. You should probably stop trying to pick it up, all the thorns. But even just eating the leaves can give you some symptoms like a fever, a headache, scratchy throat, nausea, vomiting, the big D, diarrhea. But the fruit is what will really get you if you were to partake of this plant. That could lead to abdominal pain, circulatory and respiratory depression, and even death in some people. I should mention too that it's often called the Carolina horse nettle because that's where it originates, is more in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania. But it has since spread into other areas of the country, and in some places it's considered like a pest or an invasive species due to its toxic nature. So if you're out for a walk in the fields, which usually where it grows, or I found this on the roadside, and you see what look like little tiny cherry tomatoes, just let them go. They're not going to be edible for you to eat. Same thing, if you do live like on a farm or the countryside with some animals and you find this growing nearby, you probably just want to get rid of it because, like I said, it is toxic to them. Although the thorns do deter them from eating it, you never know. They're curious. Well, especially with goats. Goats will eat anything, but they'll maybe take a nibble on it. So there you go. That is horse nettle. Like I said, you notice it a lot more in the fall when those little, almost like, let's say, little cherry tomatoes form. They can be quite striking when the rest of the foliage is brown. So there you go. Alright, I think that'll be it then, folks. So thanks for watching this video on poisonous plants of Pennsylvania, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.